Welcome to Let the Quran Speak. I'm Aisha, your host. We recently discussed the case of Canadian permanent resident Khalid Al-Kazzaz, who has been illegally detained without charge in Egyptian prisons for more than 500 days. Today, we are joined by a guest who went through a similar ordeal. Monia Mazigh holds a PhD in finance from Mcgill University. In 2009, she published her memoir, Hope and Despair, about her painful yet inspiring battle to free her husband, Maher Arar, from a Syrian jail. Arar was wrongfully deported, imprisoned, and tortured. After a public inquiry, the Canadian government apologized and compensated Arar for their role in his ordeal. How did Monia Mazigh find the strength to publicly campaign for her husband? And what can we learn from Maher Arar's ordeal? Here's Monia Mazigh now. So Monia, I want to take you to the beginning of, what got you to even end up writing Hope and Despair. Walk us through a little bit about, I guess, just the facts. What happened? How did it all start?
In 2002, my husband was arrested and by the American. He was deported to Syria. He spent over a year there. He was in jail, solitary confinement. He was tortured. He suffered. He came back in 2003 and changed, another person, but also he wanted to have some answers to why he was arrested, why he was deported, and whether the Canadian, participated in that process, or who did what. And 2004, there was a public inquiry. That public inquiry was launched by the Canadian government. It took more than 2 years, and then the judge, Justice O'Connor, wrote a report. He cleared my husband's name, and after that, the Prime Minister of Canada apologized for my husband, and for my family. So after that, the idea of writing about this chapter of our lives came to me. Some people asked, why don't you do it? Had some resistance, but then finally I started, I thought, yes, it makes sense. I should do that. And I started writing, and Hope and Despair came in 2008.
One of the points you said in the book was you wanted to write so that your kids also had some answers. Wouldn't it have been easier to just close this chapter, talk about it? Like, what made you decide, no, this is important to write and document?
Well, I think, yes. I mean, I had some internal discussion with myself, and finally I decided to come up because I think the advantages outweigh the disadvantage. And one main reason, of course, I mean, my kids, I wanted them to read it. I wanted them to, at least to know that their mother wrote this book. It's not someone else, so they can be kind of reassured that this is at least how I saw the events happening. But also, I think it is important. It is now becoming like an icon or a kind of a symbol into the history of Canada, this case of Maher Arar. So I think it's important not only, to just forget about it or maybe just mentioning it, but for other people, generation, young people who were not even, born when those events happened, to open a book and read. So it is there. I mean, there are other maybe books that mention that, but at least, to have a perspective from someone who is closely related to the case, I think it's important to have that voice.
So it's called Hope and Despair, and I remember a specific point in the book where mother-in-law at one point said, will we ever see Maher? And the tone that you used in the novel was just defeated, and you said, we will, and I have faith. So I'm just wondering, where did you, just during that whole ordeal, where did you find the sense of hope? Did your faith have anything to do with it, or?
Well, for sure, my faith played an important role. I wouldn't say it is the only thing that kept me, kind of moving forward, but it is one big...
How did your faith play a role in that?
Well, I think, when things become very, very difficult, almost like I can see it impossible, then I don't know, something inside of me kept me moving and kept me believing that one day I will see him back. This is basically faith. You don't see, you don't see God, you don't see anything of like these miracles, but still in your heart something will tell you it's there, it exists. So basically it's like hope, it's there, it is something that we can feel inside of us. We don't have it always. I mean, sometimes, the book is Hope and Despair. Sometimes, when I see all these doors shutting off or all my attempts, bringing nothing, I cannot stop saying, well, it's not working. What am I going to do? But then, slowly there is this little light and sparkle, and this is basically what keeps us all working and waking up every morning, despite all the difficulties, despite all the disappointment and the challenges.
So I'm going to shift conversation a little bit. How do you think Canada does enough, or do we need to do more to protect its Canadian citizens, permanent residents? One example is the case of Khalid Al-Kazaz, who's a Canadian permanent resident, and I've seen some videos where you've been advocating for his case as well. I was wondering if you could comment a little bit on that.
Well, I compare human rights and rights in general as muscles in our bodies, and if we don't use it, we lose it. And the same thing for rights. If we don't use them, if we don't protect them, if we don't keep telling the government that these are our rights and reminding them that they exist and we are here, then they are going to be lost somehow. So we have to exercise them. And absolutely, I think, the case of Maher Arar is an unfortunate one, but we have tendency to think that maybe it's not the case anymore. Maybe we forget about it. Maybe Canada is not, as it was before. Now we learned our lessons. But if we hear about case of Khalid Al-Kazaz, for example, who is a Canadian permanent resident. Actually, he's not a Canadian citizen yet, but still, his wife is Canadian, his kids are Canadian, and lived in Canada and studied here, and suffering in a jail in Egypt. Then what is our role? What sort of leverage do we have? Can we do more? And I believe, yes, we can do more by speaking out, by raising these, human rights issues with countries like Egypt, like, all other countries who are going to, put their citizens in prison and not, stripping them of their rights. So there are tremendous challenges, and we cannot say, well, it's done, we apologize to Maher Arar, that's it. No, the cases are still, some of them unfortunately are still happening, and we have to be vigilant. We have to keep denouncing abuse and ask our government to do more until justice is, reestablished, or at least the wrong corrected.
During your experiences, did you find, you were very advocate, did you find on the issue, did you find you were getting the support from the community, Muslim and non-Muslim, in your battle?
Well, the case of my husband happened just after 9/11. So at that time, I think people were scared. They didn't really want to know what's going on. They didn't know what was going on. They were kind of living in fear and some sort of, hiding, because they didn't want to associate with anything that has to do with terrorism. So in my case, the support was somehow not very clear or very big. I mean,
and
there
when
was
you're talking about the support, are you talking about Muslims or non-Muslims?
Muslim support as well as non-Muslim support. People were suspicious. They didn't know how they can help. They didn't know who is Maher Arar. So people were a little kind of shy. But I think with time, First of all, the media start talking about the case, so there were more and more reports. People get to know more about the case. And that's the purpose of campaigning. Bring the attention, bring this case to the attention of people, of the public opinion. And I think support, it's not something that exists. You have to build it. And we were able, I was happy and lucky, I think, enough to bring good people around the case, and you know, they became very much invested. They believed in the innocence of my husband. They believed in the due process, and you know, it worked good. Some people maybe do not have that chance, and this is why we need other human rights activists, you know, to keep reminding this, you know, the public opinion about the importance of speaking out, of denouncing injustice.
Has the element of fear, in your opinion, changed, or do you think it's still there, especially now with...
I think it's a sort of different sort of fear. I mean, fear changed. At that time, it was more, you know, around terrorist attack, 9/11. Later on, it became more the Toronto 18, like radicalization of youth. And I think now people are so also into looking into the international conflict, thinking, oh, maybe they... I think the fear is there, but it changed. After 9/11, it was so paralyzing. I think now people are maybe more aware, even the public opinion, it's not, it's more careful in judging, so that's good. But we need more awareness, because with education and awareness, fear will decrease. And then action can come.
When you say education and awareness, are we talking about education and awareness of cases like this, education and awareness about the faith? Like, what is that education awareness?
Education and awareness. Education, like, for example, about the international conflicts, what's going on, awareness about, you know, the new laws that to go against terrorism. Like, people maybe did not hear about these new bills that the government is preparing, and sometimes these this new legislation is going so far. So I think awareness of telling the government, maybe we don't need that. Maybe you are using some kind of events to, you know, to push for some sort of political agenda. So I think education, reading the news, following the cases, also balance, I think, balance in terms of our opinion. We cannot always blame a community that, you know, they are the source of terrorism, or they are the one who are, you know, committing all the terrorist act. I think this is where education education by knowing, you know, what are the problem of terrorism, you know, how can we fight it.
I know this is a very interesting topic. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.